Okay, we're live on YouTube. Let's try. Oh, no, I can only be live on YouTube. Okay, that's fine. So we're going to get back to the specs that we were working on yesterday so that we can hopefully improve them and make sure that we can catch any regression when we update the forks button to be a Vue application. So let's share my screen. We were working on yesterday. Okay. So these are the specs that we were working on yesterday, and I'm going to disable, like, comment out everything that's not related to those specs so that we can run the specs faster. And that, like that. Okay. So let's run the specs once again, just to make sure the file is okay. So let's go back to have fork in here because this was working before, but we are going to change these specs. Like, let's get one working first. So this should still fail. No, maybe no, this will work probably. Okay, this does work, but it's like we saw yesterday, it's a bit flaky. So instead, what I want to do is find that button on the page and then make sure that all the attributes are correct. So the disabled state or the href. So to do that, we have to change it a little bit. And I'm going to try and see. Okay. How to get that fork button. And let's see if we have a class. We have fork btn here. But we don't have it. Oh, yeah, I was looking at the wrong line. Okay, we have fork btn class added to the button, so we could try and Let's first make sure for fork button. Let's see if it's used somewhere else. No. Okay, so this is the only place where it's getting used. Oh, and it's actually the way that we're getting the fork button in here. So I'm going to do the same. Forks. Mid button. We're going to get that. And how can we check to exist? Exist. Oh, these files are in, these are feature specs. Mm-hmm. I want to check get what I get if the button doesn't exist. Oh, oh, that's throwing an exception. That's actually okay because the fork button always exists. What we want to do is check the status of that button. And in order to do that, let's see. This is using, okay, the old version of the code. So let's try and simulate button class disabled. So that's a CSS class. Okay, so allows the user to go to the fork page. So it should be enabled. So has CSS. Okay, I need a dot here. Okay, and how do I check? all working on the CSS side of stuff. Button is an element. How do I get let's see. Check href. Mm. 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 Think we are going to have a little bit different link page to have selected. Hmm. Let's see. Let's try to do namespace project path. We should have the current user. Yes. So namespace project path. Hmm. User. That didn't work. That's mocking me. Hmm. Namespace project path. And I need the user. And this. Oh, we need to also fork the project. How do we create a fork? Fork project. Easy. Hmm. Hey, Anatoly.
Hello.
Hello. How's it going?
It's good. At least I can hear you. It's good.
Okay, perfect.
So what's going on with those specs? Is it for tests? Uh,
Yeah, I'm basically writing the specs for the old forks button so that we can catch any regression when we migrate over the view component.
mm-hmm.
Because some specs were already existing, but they were kind of flaky and not testing all of the different situation where the button was disabled and have different links and that stuff.
Mm-hmm, I see. So all of those are specs that are being run with some kind of Selenium or
These are using Capybara. I don't know if Capybara is based on Selenium or stuff like that because I'm not that expert on specs that actually test the application this way. Okay, let's try. I'm just trying to see if I can fork a project inside of the specs, because that's one of the things that we have to check. Then that's not working because
Project fork behaves like fork button in project page. I don't really understand what it tests because I don't know how fork button should behave.
yeah, that's I don't really know how they called it that way. I'm not changing that, but the test was only making sure that the button did exist and it was enabled or disabled.
All right.
So I think that's the behavior they were trying to test. This is, I need to change.
So the shared examples, that means use template, right?
Yeah, they're basically examples that you can reuse, so that, for example, you have the same stuff all over again, only with some slight changes. For example, some conditions, like the user has for the perfect example is, for example, when you have to test something that's working for namespaces, and since both projects and groups are namespaces, you can write one shared example and pass in a namespace twice. For example, call the shared example twice, passing in a project and a group. They should behave the same.
But how does it work? Like, you call this shared examples template, which is named fork button on project page, and you pass it the context that it will substitute, right?
Yeah, the shared example is a collection of contexts, and when you have to pass something in, and you can use the let, for example, because everything inside of the shared example will use the same variables declared by the let outside.
So, like, what, for example, here, you call the shared example is fork button on the project page, right?
I'm not calling it in here. I'm just declaring it.
Oh, I see. So it's just a template for all other tests. Right.
Exactly.
Okay.
So, for example, this is commented, but here is another shared example that that I'm declaring, and in here I am calling it twice. For example, I have to call it twice to make sure that Yeah, in two occasions, the button should always be disabled. So both when the already hasn't, yeah, it's a little bit of a mess, the fork button to explain. Okay, so there are two ways, two situations in which the fork button doesn't bring the user to the list of forks, but instead to the page to create a new fork. And that's when the user hasn't already forked the project, and when the user has access to more than one forkable namespace. And in both those situations, the fork button should behave the same. So I created the shared example to test that behavior. And here I have two contexts where I'm going to set up here the user won't have already forked the project, and in here instead the user will have access to more than one forkable namespace. And both that should behave the same.
Yeah, but I think that when you create the fork, there is a new page that asks you where you want to create it, right?
Yes.
And I'm not sure if I have only one namespace, probably it should not ask me like for that. No, it should like create in my personal namespace by default.
That's true, and I think that Lee changed this recently, but that's not something that we are testing here. We are only testing that the link is correct. Like what you mentioned is something implemented on the new fork page, and by default, the user should see their namespace as the default one.
So yeah. So in that case, the fork button doesn't create new fork. It just opens a page.
Yeah,
with the details.
Yeah, when the fork button has a link to create a new fork, it always brings the user to the new fork page.
Yeah, so test a little bit misleading because I would expect it actually to create a fork without any new pages. So
True.
My experience, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. But what if you want to create a fork on another namespace?
Then it should have like drop down some kind of stuff to choose that option.
Yeah, and that's inside the new fork page, because if a user by default has access to at least their own namespace, so their own user namespace. And that's one place where the fork would be created. But even if the user has access to at least one group with developer access, they have two options to where create the fork.
Yeah, right. But yeah, for usually I just start editing the file, and then like whichever fork it will land, it's okay for me. I just need to send a MR, and I don't care where this fork is created. But that's a user experience issue.
Yeah.
Not something that should be fixed here.
Yeah, I agree.
So the test here is to check if the fork button really redirects to these fork details, new fork page, right?
In this case, I'm in the case where the user has access to only one namespace and has already forked the project. So the fork button should be a link to the user's fork, not to the new fork page. That's the only time where that button will bring the user directly to their own fork.
Mm-hmm. Is it possible to have multiple forks? I realized that not in the same namespace. You cannot have two forks in the same namespace.
Two forks on the same namespace?
I think it's impossible.
I don't know. I never tried and I never checked actually. Maybe you can. So that's also another. Yeah, that's another thing that I'm not really sure if that's right or wrong. But I see what you mean.
All right.
Why is the forked project not working?
Because where is the project defined? There is a forked project.
Yes, but I wonder if the reason why the fork project was not getting created is because I wasn't referencing this variable.
Mm-hmm. It's not very fast even to find the test to run.
It's relatively fast because it takes 6 or 7 seconds to find the test to run. It's that Capybara specs are kind of slow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the fork did work. Okay, so that works. Okay. But I have to do this before running this test because otherwise the page would already have been rendered.
Yeah, using bybuck is cheating.
Yeah. So now I don't need this, but the fork project should still exist. If I save the file. Yes, that's working. Perfect. So now we can actually write the test. That I should have left my login there.
I see that my microphone goes up and down. Do you hear any noises there?
Only minor noises. It's not an issue.
All right, interesting.
Okay. Okay, that's good. Because in here, this is the full URL, but I wonder. Yes, that's relative. Okay, perfect. So this is working as expected, and now I should be able to do this. So page to have link. I was searching for href. This one. Let's see.
It reads to me as if the page should have this link somewhere in the contents.
Yeah,
Not
that's exactly it. And I don't like it myself, but because what I would like to be able to do is just get a reference to that button and make sure that the href is right.
yes.
But I did not find a way to do that.
So because the button is some kind of component and not just a href, right?
Yes. And also the button is a Capybara element. So I don't know if I can access that. I will have a better look later, but at least for now, this is working.
That's an interesting question. I would say how to test these view components properly.
Oh, this
So
is
if you
not the view
cannot
component. This is still
why?
because this is still the old Haml component, and I'm writing these specs for the old Haml component so that when we migrate over to the view component, we can make sure that they behave the same.
All right, so you need to check the JavaScript that attaches event to these elements, and then check the property of that holds the link when.
Yeah, I did try because I did try, for example, let me. No. Volleyball. So if I run this, and I did try to, for example, for on the fork button, see if there was a way to get to find its attributes or props. But yeah, attributes because props are more view related. But I could not find anything. Let's see. Oh. Oh.
But you need to make sure those exist in HTML. So it's not some child component.
Yeah, but I can find the fork button with the class because I checked that, and that's the only element in the page that has that class, so I can get a reference to that.
And then it contains, is it a link? Is it an A element or something else?
Yeah, it's an A element.
Okay.
Oh, this works. Okay,
Yeah.
so we can do it. We can do better. So we can do this. To like that. But Let's see. Do I also have the CSS? I do. So let's do this. Forks.
I sure that defined. Oh yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's good. I just thought that it was a different brace or how it's called parentheses. The round ones are called just brackets, or the square ones are called
Oh,
brackets.
you're asking to the wrong person.
I don't know how to pronounce that just because I don't know how they called.
I usually call the round ones parentheses and all the others brackets, or rather,
All right.
the square brackets and brackets.
All right. Parentheses.
Okay. This should work. And I hope the reviewer will like this because I don't know any other way to get this working otherwise. Oh, this failed. Contains.
Bad introspection or like no plugins for highlighting the errors in the editor.
Mm. But I'm not sure that this works. Not
Are you using Gitbot or your own desktop?
No, I'm on desktop. Not good.
Oh, I see.
Today. Yeah, that's wrong. To contain. Contain exactly.
Why not EQ?
Because I only want to make sure that it doesn't have the disabled class. All the other classes, I don't care. And also I don't have the full list.
All right. So
Oh, to include. Not to include. Should be.
so is that a Bara property or it's spec keyword?
The include.
Yeah.
I think it's a keyword from our spec. Actually, our spec include. Yes. Perfect. This is working, so we can get back to the other specs as well.
I would just rename the spec to it has to say that the button links user to the project page of the fork of the fork, something like this.
Yeah, the spec I call this allows the user to go to the fork page. Oh, to
yeah,
their fork page.
to the project page of the fork.
Yeah, to the project.
Or to the fork, just like this. To the fork is okay.
Yeah, to the They should do.
No,
Allow the user. No.
because fork project is the parent project.
Yeah, it allows the user to go to the project page of the of their
Of the
fork.
fork. Just of the fork would be nice.
Yeah, onto the project page of the fork. Okay, this way.
And maybe just to the fork will be even more like understandable as well.
To go to their.
Yeah, to the fork page or to the fork.
Like
Yeah,
that.
the fork is good.
So
Oh,
when
now-
you. Okay.
Now may even fit HCHR's width limit.
Oh, yeah, true. Probably. So. We have to check. Allows the user to fork with the project from the project page. So the fork button has to exist, and the path should be new project path. For project, but not to include disabled, and the href is that. Otherwise, when the user cannot fork the project, it should be disabled. And here should be disabled as well. When the user has not already forked the project, creates a new fork when the user has access to more than one namespace. So in this one, I have to create a group and add the user to that group. Do I have a reference? That. Create group. Oh, nice.
What was that? Was that AI? Almighty AI?
Yes, that were code suggestions, and they worked perfectly.
But these are not GitLab code suggestions. These are something else, right?
I think so. I actually enabled them yesterday, so I still have to get used to those. And
but if you're using your desktop, then how do you enable GitLab AI code suggestions?
You have to have it enabled on the project. So
And then Visual Studio automatically knows where to find the suggestions?
Yes, because you have to also enable the GitLab workflow extension.
Right.
And that's going to basically make sure that you are inside of a project and check online.
Yeah, got it.
2 errors. Expected to include the disabled. And that's only on 2 specs. So I wonder when the user cannot fork the project. Cannot fork the project. Yeah, it's this one. So I wonder if this is not working.
Not really sure that this does. So you define the context, and then before that, there is a check that
Yes,
you
because what that should do at this point, because I'm not sure it's working. So basically the fork button handle is calling this fork button disable tooltip method. And that's returning a string only if the user cannot fork the project or cannot create a fork. And in those 2 occasions, the button will be disabled. So in here, I am stubbing the can method called in here to make sure that when it's called with the fork project string, it should return false.
All right, so it's mockery, like mock here.
Yes, exactly. But that's not working. And I wonder why.
Is it possible to use some fixture that emulates the user with without access permission properly, without mocks?
I don't know, because we had a check yesterday on how this fork project permission is granted, and it's kind of obscure.
Maybe it's a dead code.
Public access and forking allowed. We could actually try.
Repository disabled policy.
Yeah, we could try to disable the repository on that project.
Create disabled repository and try to fork it.
So repository disabled is coming from somewhere. Or working allowed. And yeah, I don't know. User can. Oh, I know what we can check. We can check.
So you mock the call, but then you need to create the project after this.
Yes.
And then you need to make sure. Yeah.
No, I am mocking this so that every time that the code inside of the test is going to call user.can question mark with fork project and passing that specific project, that's going to return false, or at least it should. But allow helper. Okay. So this is basically doing that thing. Where is helper coming from? This is a long.
It's interesting. Like it tries to replace the user. What happens? It's allow helper to receive current user.
So this is basically mocking the helper, which is an instance of project helper, to basically when a call to the current user method is made, it should always return user coming from the spec.
And user is symbol user, or it's a variable.
No, it's the user declare using the let it be this, in this case. So it's the variable inside of the specs.
So you use symbol and then it creates variable in Janix.
Yeah, like in here, you use the symbol to create the project, but then you use project like a variable inside of the spec.
I see. So what doesn't happen right now? The check doesn't work, or like the condition returned correctly, but the disabled button is not activated.
Yeah, the disabled button is not activated, but I think that's because this is not working. The
How to check?
Let's see if this works. And then I have to call it a day for today as well, unfortunately. Yeah, once I figure out how to mock it in the right way, this should also work. So if we do user.can fork project, yeah, this is returning false.
and return false. All right.
Yeah, so this is working, but I wonder if the issue is a little bit different. Like, where was it? Here.
So the template should call it, but it doesn't call. The user is not the same or project not the same.
Yeah, that's one thing that's possible. In fact, I'm trying to see. Yeah, this is using current user. So I think that we have to stop the project helper as well, so that current user returns our user. So how to do that? I have to get an instance to the project helper. Yeah. Because here, in fact, this is tabbing the helper to receive the current user and return the current user.
But what's the meaning of that? I mean, it receives the current user. What's the meaning to return the current user?
Because it's user current user. Yeah, because since they're stubbing this, I think they're solving the same problem as I am. Like, if we stub the user to receive can with a forked project, this user has to be the same one used by the helper.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to make sure that they're the same, they are stubbing the current user method on the helper to return the same user they are expecting.
All right. For me, it's kind of more logical to disable project like generated project.
Yes. Let's see if we can find a quick way to do that. So if we repository disabled, where is that defined? That's a rule. Oh, okay. When creating the project, we can pass this as a trait. So if we instead do this here, Okay, that's a trait to create some data, and then we want to use. Yes, that worked. You were right. It was much simpler this way.
Yeah, but now there is like description can be need to be changed so that people can notice that it's a disabled repository.
Yes, but that's disabling the repository is only one way to make sure that the user cannot fork the project.
Yeah, right. And that's just basically testing the button what's is needed.
Yes, exactly. So I think that we can also leave a comment in here.
Yeah, good.
Okay. Okay. This is perfect. So
And the second also like worked. That's there was a
yeah, they all worked.
Okay.
I just run this once again to make sure it works, and then I'm going to open NMR for these changes.
Yeah, it's not easy to work on old features.
Yeah, the really the thing that's more frustrating is that we're writing these specs to make sure that the old Haml button and the new view component will work the same. But then once we have changed the fork button to be a view component, I'm also going to actually change how that button works so that the first iteration is to make a view application that's behaving the same way as the old one. And then I'm going to change that view application to basically be like a drop down that so that you can see the list of forks you have access to, so that you can go to one of those, or you can have a create new fork button that brings you to the new fork page.
Is that because like to migrate the HTML to the view and taking this opportunity to improve the button, or is there some other like feature that is impossible?
No, the main reason I wanted to do this was to improve the fork button user experience, and
Okay.
and so we decided to go in two steps. So first, recreate the fork button as it is in Vue, and then improve it.
I see. You will have to rework the test because there won't be just href. There won't be classes I expected from the Vue component. There probably will be some stuff on top of that.
Yeah, probably, but yeah, at least.
Yeah, at least it's now covered.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so these are working. So I'm going to open the MR later on today. Once that's merged, we can get back to the actual changes for the fork button to migrate over the view component, so that we can make sure they behave the same. So for now, I'm actually going to go because I have to still have lunch.
Yeah, that's a good idea, actually.
Perfect. Okay.
I found myself with, yeah.
Thanks a lot for joining, and thanks to everyone that maybe they're watching.